I'm going to do this video a little differently than normal because there's a lot to unpack here and I don't have the ability to record those half-hour videos. So I will after my intro here, the rest of the video will be in double speed. So if you want to hear it at the normal speed, just double speed the video. Speed up is going to begin in 3, 2, 1. Now, so earlier today, I was made aware of a certain resolution called House Resolution 894. I tried to research it as much as I could today around doing my job. I have a printout of it right here with some notes on it that I made while I was researching what was going on this. So yeah, let's actually dig into this. So first off, it was kind of difficult to find out who one of the authors of this was. Mr. Kustoff was rather easy to find. He is Dave Kustoff, the former representative of Tennessee for the Republican Party. At least that's what the Wikipedia page looked like. Mr. Miller was harder to find and figure out who that was. I'm assuming it was Max Miller of Ohio, but that last name is very easy to get, it's very easy to hide in a crowd with that name. Now, breaking down the actual resolution, I will have it here for a second. And so first off, right here where it says this organization name, they define it as an Iran-backed terrorist organization, which, entirely ignores the history of what this organization was created by, as a organization that was partially created by the 51st state in order to reduce legitimacy in the eyes of the West of the indigenous peoples of the 51st state. Moving on to the second page of this document, there is a paragraph that declares the slogan of From the River to the Sea as an rallying cry for the eradication of the state of 51st state and the Jewish people, and has been used by anti-51st state protesters in the United States and globally, i.e. it is making this phrase here deemed as automatic hate speech, declaring it to be a call for unalivicide on the mass scale. There is no evidence of this phrase that I could find being used for that, except for evidence that was fabricated by media departments of the powers that be to promote the narrative that of it being used as a cry for eradication. It is a cry for indigenous freedoms, not for unalivicide. The next section of the document is going to be describing the situations that are used as evidence for why they're declaring this House resolution necessary. I will admit my research may not have been the best. As I mentioned earlier, I was doing this while at work. The first occurrence that they reference theoretically happened on the 8th of October, 2023, where a car with individuals holding a Palestinian flag appeared intentionally swerve out of its lane, nearly hitting a quote-unquote visibly Jewish family in the town of Clifton, New Jersey. I researched all I could. I could not find any evidence supporting this claim. I could not find any police reports. I could not find any news reports on this. It kind of makes me think that this didn't necessarily happen to any official stance, just that someone might have heard it. This goes hand in hand with the fact that a lot of the far-right portion of the already far-right government of the United States has this tendency to lead with not factual-based, but entirely anecdotally-based stories to try to justify their claims. This is a trend that continues many times throughout this document. The next event was a theoretical event that happened on the 15th of October in New York City, where a person was punched in the face at Grand Central Terminal. I looked up all the keywords I could figure out about this. I could not find any evidence of this attack at all. It kind of has Jussie Smollett vibes, to be quite honest. The next event, October 28th, 2023, happening not in the United States, but in Sydney, Australia. I could not find any evidence of this story at all. Like, I literally looked everywhere I could. I could not find it. Granted, I don't know the laws regarding reporters and journalism in Australia, so I may not have been looking in the right way. I'll fully admit that my research may not have been the best. Like I said earlier, I was rushing it. Now, there are two events that occurred on the 3rd of November. The first was a claim that a person's store was attacked by a mob of protesters, all because they hung posters of hostages in their window. Did not find any police reports on that at all. Like, I looked. You'd think that if it made this page, if it made this resolution, then there would have been some paper trail somewhere. The next event, again, same day, a claim that four masked men walked into a restaurant in Philly and proceeded to tear down a flag, yelling, "Free Palestine." I did not find any evidence of this happening at all. In fact, the only thing I could find happening on that date in that city was a mass arrest at 30th Street Station at a pro-Palestinian protest. So yeah. The next event had a small amount of evidence to it, occurring on November 4th in Arizona. A man was threatening to execute someone and every other person with that ethnicity. And actually, I found a direct quote from this, where this could have been quoted from CNN. However, I could not find that much evidence to corroborate this story. Like, the only source I found for that story was CNN. The next event on that date, same date, November 4th, talking about the protest that occurred in Washington, D.C. Now, if you notice, it is spread around in two paragraphs to try to make it look like two events. And they don't refer to it as a protest. They use that particular word, rioters, which, is not at all trying to paint the people with this belief as something. So much for the fucking marketplace of ideas. But the second paragraph, it claims that this phrase and this phrase were being chanted. I could not find any evidence of those quotes at all. I literally could not. The next date that has a mention here is November 6th, 2023. This D-bag, there was evidence from. However, they just claim him as a 69-year-old man of that faith, tragically dying due to injury sustained when a protester struck him in the head with a megaphone in LA. Now, I was able to find multiple articles on this situation, on this particular event. One of them, though, had a series of interviews with this man's neighbor.
And they painted a different story than the resolution does. Again, kind of showing the bias of how this is written. Granted, everything that's written has bias, but again, obfuscation through not including the detail that this guy was an open Zionist, that this guy was also at a counter protest to a pre-existing protest, and was verbally harassing the actual protesters. And the incident where he was hit was not intentional. The person was tripped. Also, one of the articles I saw even said that the hit was an accident. Like, it was a situation where the person was falling and the thing fell and hit him. So, yeah, definitely entirely factually based. It's not motivated at all in this fucking resolution here. The next occurrence happened on November 11th, 2023, where a large protest, again, they don't call them protesters, they call them rioters, set off smoke bombs in front of a synagogue in London. So again, not in the United States. I don't understand why we have to be world police with our own resolution. Also, I did more research on that event. Yes, I did find evidence of it. And also, that particular synagogue happened to be hosting tours that were trying to indoctrinate children to the idea of going in and being settler colonists of that area. It's not like there wasn't an agenda there at all, right? Right? Next event, November 12th. Police found headstones in this cemetery, which is a very ethnic cemetery in Brooklyn, Ohio, were desecrated with that particular symbol. You might have noticed some of the details that were mentioned in my notes there of the Jewish Federation of Cleveland, which is a Zionist organization that literally is, again, much like that synagogue in London, trying to get people to leave this country and go to the 51st state and move there and colonize that area. Also, a lot of those people that had those particular symbols on their headstones happen to be collaborators with that one organization. Not all, but some. In Milan, Italy, on November 13th, a mezuzah was torn off the doorpost of a Jewish person's apartment with a knife, and the knife was stuck into the wood in its place. Now, if you're not familiar with what a mezuzah is, it is a prayer written on a scroll, and it is put behind a metal plaque in a doorway. It's at an angle where it is angled toward the inside of the thing. It is a blessing of the house. I could not find evidence of this. Actually, my house has one, or my parents' house has one. Yeah, I couldn't find evidence of this. And again, in Milan, it's not in the United States. Again, trying to go with the fucking world police shit. The next event happening on the 13th of November, again, but the evening before, the March for Israel in Washington, D.C., saying that there was a Jewish medical tent that was vandalized with a few phrases that were considered earlier in this to be as hate speech. But also, it cuts off the sentence. Like, I got this from a federal website, and it literally cut off the sentence right there. What was the other one, huh? What was it? I know my job is losing some resources, but, we're not out of toner. Also, I looked up the situation. No evidence for it whatsoever. At all. In fact, most of what I saw when I was looking up that particular event was talking about how there were people going through there using it to hook up with quote-unquote nice Jewish boys. Legit, that was a thing going on at that event. The last referenced event occurred November 15th of this year, and talking about them blocking the DNC headquarters and endangering the lives by blocking the doors of the headquarters. The area also compares that situation to the events of January 6th, 2021. Now, yes, blocking a doorway could be considered a fire hazard, but they're literally outside protesting the people who are allowing for this situation to happen. Legitimately. That is part of the point of a protest, is to make things unbearable for the people who are causing it, to have the people in power stop. And when you don't have the economic power, you have to use some form of political power to do such a thing. And obviously, the DNC does not answer to the masses, unless those masses have masses of money. Because, Lockheed Martin. The last section of the resolution has these situations going on, and this is very much done to go against Representative Rashida Tlaib. I'm fairly certain that that's why this entire thing was put forth. But also, notice Section 4, declaring that anti-Zionism as anti-Semitism. Aside from the fact that it's declaring all people to be a monolith, it is trying to write in stone this idea that these things are one and the same, when they're not. They're very much not. The last part of this claims that the rejection of all forms of hate, terror, discrimination, and harassment against members of the Jewish community. I declare this entire resolution as harassment and discrimination. It is associating me with this word, not the anti-word in front of it, but this word. Fuck that. And yes, I may not be religiously Jewish, but I've been harassed for being. I'm not saying that events like that don't happen, but what I'm saying is this fucking situation, this is not representing the people. This is trying to justify a terrible act of inhumanity and trying to claim it as a righteous thing because the people who are doing it had a horrible series of actions happen against them. Now, also, I should point out that after this will likely pass, because it is in the material interest of both parties of the bourgeois party that exists in this country, what's going to happen is there's going to be a massive series of crackdowns against anyone who is against the 51st state. And there's already a series of crackdowns going on against anyone who speaks out against them, even if it's just on social media platforms. But, this is something along the lines of McCarthyism, because the system knows that the people are wising up to what is going on. They're saying they want you to stop talking about the situation, get back in line, and they want you to act in a certain way. But this is when it's more important to yell louder, because this is a fear tactic. This is when you need to continue fighting despite it looking like you can't win. Educate, agitate, and organize.